Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. Tonight I've got a truly terrifying encounter with a dogman in Kentucky. Also, I have just a little snippet of Navajo folklore centered around Dogman/Skinwalker. Before we get into those stories, a couple links I'd like to share with you. As you know, I'm commercial free, so I rely on my PayPal, Patreon, and merch links to help keep this channel growing and going. I also have a second channel centered around creepypasta, scary voice acting, and fan fiction. If that's anything that you're into, stop over there and give a couple of those stories a listen. You might just like them. And with that, guys, let's get on with this encounter and the tidbit of folklore. This is an excerpt from an old study called Human Wolves. You know that man with the sore eyes? Yes, he said when he was a boy 12 or 15 years old. He was left in a hogan with two small girls. One of them is Kinliney's wife, when he heard some dirt fall of the hogan. That is what human wolves do. They climb up on the hogan and look down through the hole to see if everyone's sleeping. And sometimes they throw down medicine and that kills people. Do they breathe it? Yes. And he took his gun and he went outside. It was snowing. That is when those human wolves like to come out, because the snow covers up their tracks. They come mostly in the winter. The wolf ran behind some trees, but the lad went out and shot him in the side. Then in the morning he took the girls and they followed his tracks. They could see because blood leaves a yellow mark. They followed about 12 miles, and then he went on without the girls and found a place where the human wolf had lain down, and there was lots of blood and some rags. He thinks he used the rags to wipe off the blood. He must have taken off the skin there because he could find no more tracks. 2 days later, he heard that a man died about 30 miles away. It was said that he had fallen off his horse and hurt his side, but he thinks that it was the man that he had shot. But he didn't say anything, and he didn't even tell the girls he shot a human wolf. Now, a hogan in this little excerpt is a traditional Navajo hut, if you guys are wondering. July 9th, 2017, 11 p.m., Shelbyville, Kentucky. I'm guessing as to the date since it's almost been a year since the sighting. It was a Sunday night and there was a full or near full moon with a few clouds and a very mild temperature. I'm certain of the time of the sighting since I normally walk my dog no later than 9 p.m., but I was late on this particular night because I'd been watching a show on TV and was late getting out with her. This is an unusual location to see something like this because I live in a nice, older neighborhood, but it is within a mile of wide open country. I follow the same route walking my dog every evening, and I was almost back to the house when I stopped because I saw two very large, black, hairy things coming down the driveway of the house across the street from mine. I could see the hair standing on their backs. They had a jerky movements, and I remember thinking they looked like giant black tumbleweeds coming down the driveway. There was a large bush at the end of the driveway they were coming down, and they tried to hide behind it. They were too big to both fit behind the bush, and I saw the one in the back actually back up because there wasn't enough room for both of them to hide there. My dog is part beagle and always has her nose on the ground, and she didn't see these things at first. They made absolutely no sound at all, but when the one in the back backed up, she looked up and saw it, and she stood perfectly still, as I was doing, and did not move. I was not going to move any closer to my house because they were right across the street from it. These things seemed to have realized that they had been seen, and both of them moved very quickly back up the driveway and stopped at the front corner of the house and stood up on two legs. That is when I could see they were brown, not black. They were very tall. When they stood up, they stretched with their arms above their heads and shook like dogs trying to shake water off their fur. Then they took off around the front of the house, and they were gone. I never got a good look at their heads. They didn't turn around and look back in my direction before taking off to the front of the house. I stood there for a few seconds more before running into my house. I don't know what I saw, but they were not dogs or bears or humans. I never walk my dog without protection anymore. Follow-up. The sighting took place on a Sunday night as she walked her dog down the street. It was fairly late, maybe even closer to 11 p.m. Her neighbors did not have their outside lights on, and the house next to the sighting location has been vacant for a very long time. As she was about 3 houses down from her own home, she had noticed the creatures and immediately froze. The creatures came from behind the neighbor's house, then down the driveway. As they walked on all fours down the driveway, they looked like huge fur balls. I would have thought they were bears if they had eventually stood up on 2 legs. They moved in a very jerky motion, stopping every second, then crawling forward. When they reached a large bush at the corner of the driveway, which has been since removed and flowers planted, the second creature backed up as if they both couldn't hide behind the bush. They walked back down the driveway on all fours. She could see the hair sticking up on their backs due to the moonlight and streetlight in the background. The security lights on each side of the garage doors were off. However, the recessed lights under the easement around the corner on the front of the house were on, and that's when they stood up on 2 legs, raised their arms above their heads, and shook briefly, like dogs would, trying to get water off them. The light was not directly on them. They stood in the shadow of the corner. However, the recessed light was just around the corner of the house, which was enough light to see the creatures had brown hair, not black. She said the arms were very long and could have touched the roof of the house, based on how they stood, which is next to the garage. We estimated their height to about 6.5 feet tall. They had human-like silhouettes with very long arms, all covered in fur. Unfortunately, no snouts, ears, or tail were noticed, as she could not clearly see their heads, as their backs were towards her. It appeared they were looking in the direction of the dark golf course across the street, most likely from where they had come from. Her dog's reaction: she froze once she noticed them. Her emotional state: she was very scared. She also froze in position for fear they would notice her, and waited a few minutes after they disappeared around the corner, where she felt safe enough to run home. Did she share this sighting with anyone else in the area, due to fear of any others being harmed? She told her husband, but he did not believe her. She also told her next-door neighbor to leave her security lights on, and the neighbor told the neighbor across the street. She didn't want to be known as the crazy lady, so she just told her neighbors that she saw some strange people in the neighborhood. From her position on the street, the creatures were approximately 75 yards away. A golf course with a lake is directly across the street from the sighting. A tree-lined creek runs behind the golf course, which connects to a less populated area. As the crow flies, there have been a few Bigfoot sightings only 9 miles north in Smithfield on September 27, 2013. And only 12 miles south in 2012 was the location of a possible werewolf attack which mauled livestock on Ditto Road. Bigfoots will travel on all fours, especially juveniles. Some might travel as quadrupeds to look less obvious. The creatures in this encounter could have been Bigfoots or Dogman or perhaps something else. The witness is very sincere, credible, and consistent with her testimony and had no apparent motive to lie. Actually, she has more to risk being ridiculed. She was brave to share her encounter, so I think we should all thank her. Wow, that story is just creepy, you know? And this poor woman is living in this beautiful old neighborhood, you know, and golf course right in their neighborhood, you know, so she's obviously living an upper class life. What motives does she have to lie, you know? I mean, just like the end says, she's got more to lose than gain. This just goes to show that these things are anywhere, you know, and we are in a era where paranormal and cryptid sightings are more accepted, and she is so afraid to get ridiculed. That only leads me to more belief in this story. I liked the folklore in the beginning. I really enjoyed that because that shows that these creatures, the Navajo called the human wolves, either a skinwalker or a dogman, used to stalk them. You know, that it just goes to show that humans aren't at the top of the food chain. Maybe we never were. You know, I mean, we're just here. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed these. I'm going to be doing some more research. I've got a great Bigfoot subscriber story I want to share with you guys. I'm going to get some Bigfoot stories together tomorrow and throw that in with it. Thanks, guys. You know, you guys are awesome. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for the comments. Just, you guys make this channel. So, have a great night. I hope you enjoyed these stories. And see you guys tomorrow.